We have sales up a little bit at Ford, down at General Motors, like we talked about yesterday. Nissan's in trouble, Stellantis is in trouble, and Toyota and Honda both had fewer sales than anticipated.
Thousands of brand new trucks and SUVs are sitting on dealership lots for months. Slashed prices and big discounts doing little to move them. What's going on, and why is this a financial disaster waiting to happen? The car market has always been a barometer for the economy. From the iconic Ford Model T to the sleek Teslas of today, cars have symbolized progress, innovation, and prosperity. But now, something strange is happening. Dealerships once bustling hubs of activity are eerily quiet. Unsold inventory is piling up like never before, and while consumers are desperate for affordability, prices are soaring beyond reach. So what's driving this crisis? Why are dealerships drowning in inventory, even with massive discounts? What does this mean for your trade-in value, your monthly car payment, and the future of the car market itself? This isn't just about cars, it's about an economic shift that could affect us all. What's happening? Imagine walking into a car dealership and finding rows of shiny new trucks and SUVs lined up as far as the eye can see. Sounds exciting, right? But what if those cars weren't there for you to choose from? They were there because no one else wanted them. This is the reality facing dealerships across the United States. Trucks like the Ford F-150, long considered a symbol of American reliability, are sitting unsold for over 200 days in many places. That's more than 6 months of inventory gathering dust. The same goes for Ram trucks. Over 25,000 brand new models, from the Ram 1500 to the heavy-duty Ram 3500, are stuck on lots nationwide. And it's not just trucks. SUVs, once the crown jewels of the family car market, are now part of the problem. Vehicles like the Ford Explorer and Toyota Tundra, which used to fly off the lot, are now lingering for months. Dealerships are running out of space to store these unsold vehicles. Some have resorted to renting overflow lots of parking cars on grassy fields nearby. It's an unsettling image, a modern-day graveyard of vehicles that just won't sell. Price tags and profits. So why aren't these cars selling? Simple. Price. Over the past few years, manufacturers have steadily increased manufacturers' suggested retail prices. Since 2019, new car prices have risen by an astonishing 42%. Trucks like the Toyota Tacoma, once affordable for the working class, now come with price tags that rival luxury cars. Take the Toyota Tundra Platinum Crew Max, for example. At $75,000, it's no longer a vehicle for the average buyer. It's a financial burden, even with discounts of $6,000 to $12,000. These prices are simply too high for most families. The situation is even worse for specialized models like the Ford Bronco Raptor, which saw markups of over $100,000 during its heyday. Now, dealerships are offering $15,000 to $20,000 off MSRP, and they still can't move them. This disconnect between price and value isn't just frustrating for buyers, it's disastrous for dealerships. Every unsold car represents money tied up in inventory, money that dealerships desperately need to stay afloat. Negative equity and auto loan struggles. The problem doesn't end with dealerships. It trickles down to consumers, especially those already paying off auto loans. Here's a startling fact. The national average for negative equity on car loans is now $7,200. This means that, on average, borrowers owe over $7,000 more than their cars are worth. And it's getting worse. Just a few months ago, that number was $6,600. For 1 in 5 borrowers, the gap is even wider. They owe $10,000 or more beyond their vehicle's value. Negative equity creates a vicious cycle. People can't trade in their current cars without rolling over debt into their next loan, leading to higher monthly payments. With new car loans averaging over $760 per month, and 1 in 6 borrowers paying over $1,000. It's no wonder repossession rates are skyrocketing. In the past year alone, auto loan repossessions have jumped by 23%, and this isn't just a statistic, it's a growing reality for families who are falling behind on payments and losing their vehicles in the process. The desperation of dealerships. Desperation is driving dealerships to extreme measures. To understand why, you need to know about something called flooring costs. Every car on a dealership lot comes with a cost. Dealerships don't own these cars outright. They're financed through what's essentially a massive credit line. Each month, they pay interest on every unsold vehicle. Think of it as a credit card bill that grows with every passing month. For a dealership packed with unsold trucks and SUVs, these flooring costs can become unmanageable. That's why dealerships are slashing prices, offering incentives, and promoting low-interest financing deals. They're doing everything they can to move inventory before the the financial strain becomes too great. But even these tactics have limits. For every new truck sold at a discount, the value of similar used models drops. This creates a ripple effect, eroding trade-in values and making it harder for consumers to upgrade their vehicles. It's a dangerous balancing act, and dealerships are running out of options. As one dealer put it, if we can't sell these cars soon, we're looking at bankruptcy. Manufacturers in trouble. The crisis unfolding in dealerships is not just a problem for the local car lot, it is sending shockwaves through the manufacturers who supply these vehicles. One of the most glaring examples of this is Nissan. Once a global powerhouse in automotive innovation, Nissan is now grappling with the harsh realities of overproduction and dwindling demand. Recently, Nissan announced plans to cut 9,000 jobs across its global operations. This is not a decision made lightly, but a necessity for a company that has seen its anticipated profits drop by 70% over the past year. To stabilize its business, Nissan is planning to slash at least 1/4 of its vehicle production. That is a monumental cut, one that highlights just how dire the situation has become. In the last financial quarter, Nissan reported a staggering $60 million loss. For a company of its size and stature, this is not just a financial blip, it is a glaring red flag. Nissan's struggles are emblematic of an industry-wide issue. Manufacturers are producing far more vehicles than the market can absorb. The result? Piles of unsold cars and escalating financial losses. The gamble that backfired. The transition to electric vehicles was supposed to be the future of the automotive industry. Manufacturers poured billions of dollars into developing electric cars and trucks, banking on a wave of demand from eco-conscious consumers. But the reality has not lived up to the hype, and nowhere is this more apparent than with vehicles like the Ford F-150 Lightning and the Hummer electric vehicle. Take the Ford F-150 Lightning, for example. When it was first unveiled, it was heralded as a game changer, a chance for Ford to lead the electric revolution. But with prices starting at over $50,000 and climbing to nearly $100,000 for higher-end trims, the Lightning has failed to attract buyers. Even aggressive discounts have not been enough to boost sales. Production was halted earlier this year, and many dealerships have started turning away new shipments because they cannot sell the ones they already have. The story is much the same for the Hummer electric vehicle. With a price tag that soars well above $100,000, it is no surprise that this vehicle has become a symbol of excess rather than progress. And it is not just Ford and Hummer feeling the pinch. Across the industry, manufacturers are finding that their electric vehicle inventories are growing faster than consumer demand. Outside of Tesla, electric vehicle sales across the United States have plummeted. Even Tesla has not been immune to falling vehicle values, with prices for some models dropping significantly over the past 2 years. For other manufacturers, the electric vehicle gamble has turned into a financial nightmare. Billions of dollars have been invested, but the returns are nowhere near what was expected. Wholesale market collapse. One of the lesser discussed but equally alarming aspects of the current crisis is the collapse of the wholesale market. Wholesale values, the prices at which dealerships can sell vehicles at auction, have dropped by 18% in just the last financial quarter. This is unprecedented and sends a clear signal that even the safety nets dealerships once relied upon are disappearing. Wholesale values have historically provided dealerships with a way to offload unsold inventory. If a car did not sell on the lot, it could be auctioned off at wholesale prices, allowing the dealership to recoup some of its costs. But as wholesale values plummet, dealerships are finding that they can no longer rely on this fallback option. Many vehicles are now worth less at auction than the dealership paid for them in the first place. This decline in wholesale prices is a direct result of the broader inventory glut. With so many new and used vehicles flooding the market, the basic principles of supply and demand are wreaking havoc. There are simply too many cars and not enough buyers, driving prices down across the board. Pandemic boom versus current bust. The contrast between the pandemic-era car market and today's landscape could not be more stark. During the height of the pandemic, supply chain disruptions and chip shortages created a seller's market like no other. New cars were scarce, and dealerships were able to charge exorbitant markups. Some buyers were even paying above the manufacturer's suggested retail price just to get their hands on a new vehicle. Fast forward to today, and the pendulum has swung in the opposite direction. The supply chain bottlenecks have eased, but manufacturers are now grappling with the consequences of overproduction. Inventory levels have ballooned to nearly 3 million new vehicles across the United States, a 120% increase compared to the previous year. Cars that would have been sold within days during during the pandemic are now sitting on lots for months. This oversupply has turned the market on its head. Where once dealerships held all the power, today it is buyers who are in the driver's seat. But even with discounts and incentives, many consumers are hesitant to make a purchase. Rising interest rates, insurance costs, and general economic uncertainty are forcing people to think twice before taking on a new car loan. The domino effect on manufacturers. For manufacturers, this crisis is more than just a temporary setback. It is a systemic problem that threatens the stability of the entire industry. When dealerships struggle to sell inventory, it creates a ripple effect that extends all the way back to the production line. Factories are forced to slow down or halt production altogether, leading to layoffs and reduced output. Stellantis, the parent company overseeing 14 brands including Jeep, Dodge, and Chrysler, is already feeling the strain. The company has announced plans to reevaluate its portfolio, with the possibility of discontinuing some brands entirely. This is not a decision made lightly, but a recognition that the current market cannot sustain the number of models being produced. Even successful brands are not immune to these challenges. Tesla, often viewed as the gold standard for electric vehicles, has had to lower prices on some models to remain competitive. And while Tesla remains profitable, the same cannot be said for many of its competitors. For traditional manufacturers, the pivot to electric vehicles has been expensive and fraught with setbacks. The question now is not whether the car market will recover, but how long it will take and what form that recovery will take. Will manufacturers scale back production to align with current demand, or will they double down on incentives and discounts to move inventory more quickly? These are the questions that will define the future of the automotive industry. Interest rates and insurance costs. The financial struggles of the car market are not confined to dealerships and manufacturers. They are trickling down to the wallets of everyday consumers. One of the biggest pain points is the rise in auto loan interest rates. Buying a car, whether new or used, has become alarmingly expensive, not just because of the sticker price, but because of the cost of borrowing. As of now, the national average interest rate on a new vehicle loan is over 7%. For used cars, that number climbs even higher to over 11%. Let those numbers sink in for a moment. These are not the 1 to 3% interest rates that many buyers enjoyed just a few years ago. Today's rates mean that the average monthly car payment for a new vehicle has soared to over $760, and for 1 out of every 6 buyers, that monthly payment exceeds $1,000. But that is not the only financial burden consumers are facing. Insurance premiums have skyrocketed as well. Over the past 2.5 years, the average auto insurance premium in the United States has doubled. In many states, annual increases of 50 to 60% have become the norm. For many families, the combined weight of high interest rates and soaring insurance costs is simply too much to bear. These financial pressures are forcing many potential buyers to rethink their decisions. A car that might have been affordable just a few years ago now feels out of reach. This hesitancy to buy is contributing to the inventory glut and putting even more strain on dealerships. The average buyer's dilemma. For decades, trucks and sport utility vehicles were the go-to choices for middle-class families across America. Vehicles like the Toyota Tacoma, the Ford Expedition, and the Chevrolet Suburban symbolized reliability and practicality. But today, these same vehicles have become symbols of economic disparity. Take the Ford Expedition as an example. A brand new 2024 Expedition Limited Max with a stealth package now comes with a price tag of over $92,000. Compare that to just a few years ago when a similar model could be purchased for nearly half that amount. Even with aggressive discounts, these price tags are still too high for the average family. The Toyota Tacoma, another once affordable staple, has followed a similar trajectory. Basic trims that once sold for around $30,000 are now priced well over $40,000. Higher-end trims like the TRD Pro and Trail Hunter easily push into the $60,000 range. These prices have effectively priced out the truck's traditional target audience, the blue-collar working class. This pricing disconnect is forcing many buyers to look for alternatives. Used cars, compact sedans, and smaller sport utility vehicles are becoming the new go-to options. Cars like the Toyota Corolla, the Honda Civic, and the Toyota RAV4 are seeing consistent sales because they offer a combination of affordability and fuel efficiency. These are the vehicles that families can still justify buying, even in today's economic climate. Decline of brand loyalty. One of the most surprising consequences of the current car market crash is the erosion of brand loyalty. For decades, automakers relied on the loyalty of repeat customers to sustain their businesses. Ford truck buyers, Toyota sedan enthusiasts, and Nissan sport utility vehicle fans often stuck with their preferred brands for years, if not decades. But that loyalty is being tested like never before. The high prices of new vehicles, coupled with limited discounts and incentives, are driving buyers to explore other options. For example, the Toyota Tacoma's rising prices have made the Nissan Frontier a more appealing choice for many consumers. With prices in the mid-$30,000 range and more robust discounts, the Frontier is quickly becoming a popular alternative. Similarly, buyers who might have once splurged on a Ford F-150 or a Ram 1500 are now opting for smaller, more affordable models, or even switching to entirely different categories of vehicles. Compact sedans and crossover sport utility vehicles are gaining ground, not because they are preferred, but because they are more practical in today's economic climate. This shift is a wake-up call for automakers. If they cannot meet the needs of their core customer base, they risk losing those customers to competitors, or worse, pushing them out of the market altogether. The Snowball Effect. The impact of the car market crash extends far beyond dealerships and manufacturers. It is creating ripples throughout the broader economy. One of the most immediate effects is on the labor market. With dealerships struggling to sell inventory and manufacturers scaling back production, layoffs have become increasingly common. Nissan's decision to cut 9,000 jobs is just the tip of the iceberg. But the ripple effects do not stop there. Declining car sales have a cascading impact on related industries, from auto parts suppliers to advertising agencies. Local economies that depend on automotive manufacturing and sales are feeling the strain. In some regions, the slowdown in the car market is contributing to broader economic stagnation. There is also a psychological component to this crisis. For many families, buying a new car is a symbol of upward mobility and financial stability. The inability to afford a new vehicle, whether due to high prices, rising interest rates, or declining trade-in values, can feel like a step backward. This shift in consumer sentiment is creating a sense of unease that goes far beyond the car market itself. And then there is the environmental angle. As electric vehicles continue to struggle to gain traction, the broader push toward greener transportation is slowing down. Many consumers are opting to keep their older, less fuel-efficient cars for longer, rather than splurging on a brand new electric vehicle. This trend has implications for sustainability goals and could slow the adoption of clean energy technologies. The impact banks and lending. The ripple effects of the car market crash extend into one of the most critical pillars of the economy, banking and lending. With the cost of vehicles soaring and monthly payments climbing to unprecedented levels, lenders are finding themselves in a precarious position. Currently, 1 out of every 5 auto loan applications in the United States is being denied. That is 20% of potential buyers who are being turned away because they cannot qualify for financing. This is not just a problem for borrowers, it is a warning sign for lenders. The primary reason for these denials is the growing number of defaults on existing loans. Auto loan debt in the United States is now at an all-time high, and delinquency rates are climbing. With repossession rates up by 23% in the past year alone, banks are tightening their lending standards to minimize risk. This creates a vicious cycle. As loans become harder to obtain, fewer cars are sold. Fewer sales mean more unsold inventory for dealerships, which in turn erodes trade-in values and further strains consumer finances. The interconnected nature of the auto market and the lending industry means that when one falters, the other is dragged down with it. What dealerships need to do. For dealerships, the road to recovery will not come from waiting out the storm. It will require a fundamental shift in strategy. The dealerships that succeed in this new reality will be the ones that adapt quickly and focus on building long-term relationships with their customers. First and foremost, dealerships must address pricing. The days of markups and inflated prices are over. Today's buyers are more informed than ever, and they are not willing to overpay for vehicles. Offering fair pricing and meaningful discounts is no longer a choice. It is a necessity. Next, dealerships need to rethink their approach to financing. Partnering with lenders to offer lower interest rates or more flexible loan terms could make the difference between a sale and a missed opportunity. Incentives like 0% interest for a limited period or extended payment plans can help ease the financial burden for buyers. Transparency is another key factor. During the pandemic, many dealerships took advantage of supply shortages to impose additional fees and markups. That strategy has backfired, leaving many consumers feeling distressed distrustful of the car buying process. Moving forward, honesty and openness about pricing and financing will be essential to rebuilding that trust. Dealerships should embrace technology to streamline the buying process. Online sales platforms, virtual vehicle tours, and at-home test drives can make the experience more convenient for buyers and reduce the overhead costs associated with maintaining large physical lots. The manufacturers gamble. For automakers, the stakes are just as high, if not higher. The decisions they make in the coming years will determine whether they can weather this crisis or succumb to its pressures. One of the most immediate challenges is balancing production with demand. Overproduction has been a key factor in the current crisis, and manufacturers must take a hard look at their production schedules. Cutting back on the number of vehicles produced may seem counterintuitive, but it could be the key to stabilizing inventory levels and avoiding further financial losses. Another critical decision involves product lines. Stellantis, the parent company of Jeep, Dodge, and several other brands, is already considering which of its 14 brands to cut. While this is a painful choice, it is a necessary one. Streamlining product offerings allows manufacturers to focus their resources on the most profitable and in-demand models. The transition to electric vehicles is another gamble that manufacturers must carefully navigate. While electric vehicles represent the future of transportation, the current demand does not justify the massive investments that have been made. Automakers need to strike a balance between innovation and practicality, ensuring that their electric vehicles are both desirable and affordable for the average consumer. Collaboration could also play a role in the recovery. Talks of a potential merger between Honda and Nissan have already surfaced as both companies grapple with declining sales and profits. While mergers and partnerships are not a guaranteed solution, they could provide the financial stability and shared resources needed to survive in a highly competitive market. The consumer's role. Amidst all these changes, consumers hold more power than ever before. In today's car market, buyers are in the driver's seat, literally and figuratively, with dealerships desperate to move inventory and manufacturers looking to regain market share. Now is the time for consumers to negotiate hard and shop smart. For those in the market for a new vehicle, the key is patience. Prices are likely to continue dropping as dealerships work to clear their lots. Look for models with significant discounts or financing incentives, and do not be afraid to walk away from a deal that does not meet your needs. For those who can afford to wait, holding on to your current vehicle might be the smartest move. The market is in flux, and buying now could mean overpaying for a vehicle that depreciates rapidly. As the industry stabilizes, better deals and more reasonable financing options are likely to emerge. Above all, consumers should educate themselves. Understanding the market dynamics, knowing the fair market value of a vehicle, and being aware of financing terms can empower buyers to make informed decisions. This is not just a car market crash, it is a chance for consumers to take back control in an industry that has long held the upper hand.